Well, folks, here we are. The second half is officially here, and over the next 2 months, we're going to find out whether the Cubs are legitimate World Series contenders or whether we're all going to be outside Wrigley with pitchforks screaming for Jed Hoyer's head by October. Now, we all know that the first half was nuts and probably something none of us have ever really seen before, especially with any Cubs team, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse. It's time to talk about second half expectations for the Cubbies. I'm going to look at it three different ways: the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and a realistic scenario. Let's start off in a positive, upbeat manner and go over the best case scenario for this team moving forward. The obvious answer is that the Cubs win the World Series. See, that was easy. But since this is a video that I'd like to last more than 45 seconds, I'll go into how that could actually happen in this best case scenario. Number one, the Cubs get their main pitchers back healthy and they stay healthy. On paper, that's pretty simple. On the field, it's of course been a different story. But not only do they stay healthy, they pitch at least to their expectations. I'm looking at you, Edward Cabrera. This best possible outcome also means that Ben Brown comes back and continues his dominance. Number two, this team continues to get on base the way that they have been. But in this case, the Cubs actually become consistent in driving in runners when the opportunity presents itself. Yes, they've been getting better at that over the final couple weeks before the All-Star break. But like it or not, folks, it just needs to happen on a regular basis. We also need PCA to be what he has been and not shit the bed like he did in the second half last year. But hey, Pete seems to be buying into the fact that taking a walk more than 10 times a season can actually be beneficial to the team. On top of PCA being this version of PCA, Nico and Bregman play like they're capable of. Seiya Suzuki stays consistent during the second half. This hot 1 week, cold the next 3 out of Seiya isn't going to cut it. And finally, Michael Busch regains his power stroke. Number 3, Jed Hoyer goes all in and gets a legit frontline starter and a reliable stud in the bullpen by the trade deadline. Nobody in this rotation or bullpen strikes fear in anyone. The Cubs need some horses on this pitching staff. In fact, I'd settle for a mid-level starter and get 2 shutdown guys for the bullpen. We all know that Craig Counsell has wet dreams about just getting his starter through 4 innings in October and then turning it over to his bullpen. In order for that to be feasible, you need guys like Mason Miller, Aroldis Chapman, and a healthy Daniel Palencia. I'm also going to throw Justin Steele in that bullpen mix. In his best case scenario, Steele returns, shows he's back, and becomes another weapon Counsell can use in tight situations. Now, if all that goes according to plan, the Cubs blow past Milwaukee, take the division, and ultimately win the World Series. To me, the offense is the key here. If they're clicking and doing what they're capable of, and quite frankly what they have shown at times already, then that can overcompensate for a slightly above average pitching staff. Of course, things can also go off the rails. This team has shown that numerous times. Let's look at what could add up to cause the worst case scenario. Number 1, the carousel of pitching injuries continues. 1 guy comes back, 2 go down. Cabrera is coming back from a hamstring injury. We know what happened last year when Shota came back from the same thing. He wasn't the same. Edward Cabrera wasn't that great before this injury. How effective will he be? And you have the risk of him re-aggravating this hammy again. But if the injuries keep popping up, the hodgepodge of a pitching staff falters and keeps the Cubs out of games. They did an admirable job in the first half. But sooner or later, those wheels being held together with Elmer's glue and bubble gum will fall off. Number 2, the offense reverts back to its ineptitude. Whether they get people on base or not, they don't take advantage of the opportunities to drive runners in. Seiya Suzuki goes back to his ways of choking during important at-bats. PCA has a repeat of his 2025 second half. Dansby Swanson hits like he did for most of the first half this season. And Alex Bregman continues to show that he's a washed-up bust. Speaking of Bregman, allow me to go off course for just a second. I don't think I like this guy. Production aside, is it me or does he just come off as a smug, arrogant asshat? I don't know, just something about him rubs me the wrong way. The whole thumbs down thing really didn't sit well with me. Not just the fact that he did it, but then he didn't have the balls to explain what it meant when asked about it.
You remind me of a jackass.
Hopefully he starts producing because I can't think of too many redeeming qualities about this clown. All right, on to number 3. Cubs are hanging around a wild card race and Jed Hoyer pretty much stands pat at the deadline. I don't know if you heard, but Twinkle D and Twinkle Dumb sold the 2025 Cubs down the river with huge trade deadline acquisitions like Mike Soroka and Taylor Rogers. If Jed and company have another weak dick trade deadline, Morale from the clubhouse to the stands is going to be low. Now, if this worst case scenario occurs, there is no playoff baseball in Wrigleyville this year. Now, these are obviously two opposite ends of the spectrum. I want to talk about what can realistically happen with this team post All-Star break. Of course, if the second half is anything like the first half, this is going to be pretty hard to predict, but I'll give it a shot. So I just don't see the Cubs pitching staff being completely healthy for the rest of the year. But it can't honestly be as bad as it was during the first half. Some good luck has to swing in a Cubbies' favor, doesn't it? So hopefully the injury bug finds somewhere else to go this summer. And even if it does, this is just an okay pitching staff, even with everyone healthy. I feel Boyd can be counted on to keep his team in games that he pitches. If David Peterson does what he can do on a consistent basis, and that's keeping a ball on the ground, he's going to prove to be a solid addition. Shota's going to give up homers, but I think he's going to be an important middle-of-the-rotation guy for this stretch. The biggest factors are the big names coming back from injury. Ben Brown, Jameson Taillon, Justin Steele, Cabrera, and Danny Palencia. Now, I still believe that J-Mo can be an efficient starter. He's ultimately righted the ship when he's been bad, and he should be able to go back to at least being reliable. Now, if Brown can come back with no ill effects from this neck issue, I do have faith that he'll pick up where he left off. As far as Cabrera goes, I just don't trust him, injury or not. But with the hamstring injury, I can see that affecting his already subpar performance, or he'll just re-injure it. He's the least reliable guy to count on in August and September. Here's the thing with the pitching moving forward. All they need to do is be competitive and keep this team in games. The Cubs ain't going to win too many 1-0 or 2-1 games, and that's okay. That's because I think the offense is going to be able to stay consistent and put runs on the board. PCA is probably going to taper off a little bit, but he has really matured as a hitter. He's willing to walk, and his understanding of the strike zone and what he can do with where the ball is pitched has been a massive improvement this year. I think that's going to stick with him. I don't see him repeating 2025's second half disaster. What I think this offense is going to ride or die with is Alex Bregman and Seiya Suzuki. My two least favorite Cubs are the ones I got to rely on. Boy, that fucking sucks. I do think Bregman turns it around, and as long as Counsell is insistent on keeping his bum at the top or middle of the order, he has to. He did seem to be turning the corner before the break. We're not going to see 2019 Alex Bregman, and we don't need to. But I do think it's going to be a night and day difference in the second half. As far as Seiya, oh God, he's had his moments this year, and that's fine. But he really took a dump last year after the break. I don't see him being that awful again, but I'll never look at him as a guy to build an offense around. Fortunately, this lineup is built around contributions from 1 to 9, and I think they'll be locked in and we'll see a much improved, much more consistent offense. As far as the front office goes, that will be interesting. If the Cubs stay hot and it looks like winning the division is achievable, I can see Jed making a big splash. Probably not Tarek Skubal, but getting at least a pretty good frontline rotation pitcher. A good starter is going to be overpriced, but if it looks like the Cubs are going to be a legit threat in the postseason, I do think he'll get aggressive. But if they're still lingering around the wild card spots and they're still having guys make weekly trips to the IL, it may be a repeat of last year, which is going to be quantity over quality. Folks, I'm a Cubs fan. Sometimes that means thinking with your heart instead of your head, but I do try to be fair and honest when I'm doing these videos. With that being said, I think the Cubs are about to take off. A division title is still realistic. To me, this means Jed makes a couple of big splashes by the trade deadline. The biggest thing that needs to go right with this team, besides health, is that they don't need to exceed expectations. They just need these guys to play up to their expectations. This roster is good enough to make a deep October run, but it's up to Jed Hoyer to prove he believes that too. All right, so what do you think? Playoffs, no playoffs, big trade, no trades? Comment below, let me know what you think.
The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
He gone!